Hey friends, it's been a minute. We wanted to film this video sooner, but Grant has been just a little under the weather with some allergies and we wanted to wait until he was feeling better because he literally has been sneezing nonstop. So, all right, how these videos work for us is, I'm just gonna keep it really real with y'all. I have been the one that's like, all right, babe, come on, let's do it. Let's pump some videos out. Let's start putting ourselves out there more. We've been in a super business season, just really sewing into business and family. And so these videos and this content and stepping into our coaching has felt like it's a extra push that we have to do kind of on the side on top of everything else that we're already doing. And so with Grant, I typically will say to him, like, he'll be home and I'll know that I'm decently dressed and we gotta film a video because we have like a teeny bit of quiet time. Kids are either outside playing or they're at their homeschool collaborative or they're, busy doing something that we can have a quiet minute. I'll just say, okay, babe, we're gonna do a quick video, we're gonna film and we're gonna talk about this, this, and this. And he'll be like, okay. And typically, you would think we would premeditate and really think through what we wanna talk about. But we've really felt with these that we want to keep it super heart-centered and really real. And if I give him too much time to think through like what we're going to talk about, it feels like we're not able to do that. And so with him, the more spontaneous I keep it, the more he is just able to keep it real, share what's on his heart, and then we just have been flowing out of that place. So. The reason I share all that with you, I know that's like a little inside scoop, but we want to keep these videos super real and we just really want to come to you vulnerably, like we said in the very beginning of the intro of these videos and this channel, just really vulnerably and really keep it real because we know that that's what the world needs right now more than anything is just real, authentic, messy, and straight from the heart. So that's number one. Number two is I want to intro this video without him here. He's not here right now. And just say that this is probably one of our most vulnerable videos. We're gonna share about a transition that we went through and talk about how we came out of a season of being, my husband especially, how he came out of a season of being in full-time ministry and knew he had to transition to being in full-time business and all that came up through that transition for us all out of that place. So we want to talk about that in this video. Appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate y'all tuning in, subscribing. I do want to say this too. Please, if you are enjoying this channel, if you are watching regularly, I see a bunch of you are doing that. Would you please subscribe if you haven't already? Would you please like the videos? Would you please give us feedback? Comment on the videos, share about what you would love to hear more about, what you liked us sharing about. It just really helps us as we're content creating, as we're stepping back into this world again, to know like, okay, what is it that you guys are liking? What do you want to see more of? Lets us know that you're there with us. So yes, thank you guys. Love you guys. And here you go. Hey friends, we want to come to you today and just share some things that we feel like will be relevant with just people at large. A lot of the conversations that we've been having, a lot of people are going through the very thing that we feel to share about. And again, it's just as an encouragement to anybody that's going through it in this way. So about 5 years ago almost now, we were my husband especially, who was in a full-time ministry staff role at a church that we still are super close with. We're super connected with many of the people from the church, and especially the pastors of that church are some of our dearest friends. We were a part of that church for a very long time. It's probably been about like 15, 20 years almost, like maybe 17 years.
Where?
That we were a part of the church?
Probably 15.
15-ish years.
Almost 15 from the beginning, yeah.
So it was a real relationship for us, heart-centered relationship for us. And about 5 years ago, we just started to be led in a different direction, and we want to share a little bit, especially my husband, I want him to share about that transition for our family now in hindsight. And it was some of the hardest 5 years of our lives, but it was actually some of the best 5 years of our lives. in so many ways in hindsight, because for real, because we just look back and see now the weightiness of it and what all God did in us, in our hearts, and how much it was just super important for our journey, but more than that, we just want to share it as an encouragement, because the world at large right now, a lot of friends, a lot of people we've been talking to, meeting, are just sharing about how there's like a at large kind of tearing down of all the things that we used to look to for our sense of identity, our sense of purpose, our sense of worth, whether that be, financial or career or position, family stuff, health stuff. There's just an at-large theme, and I believe it's just all meant for our good. And a lot of what we walk through, it didn't feel that way when we were walking through it. It felt very hard and really intense. But again, in hindsight, we look back and we're like, that was everything. Like literally changed our lives those 5 years. And so we're just going to get into it a little bit. We want to share vulnerably and open with you, because we know that that's what people need most. They don't need another heady thought process teaching, or they need real life. They need authenticity. They need heart. They need truth from life experience. And so we just felt, it's time to share this. It's super vulnerable for us. It's very like, feels a little like we don't fully want to share it, but we feel like it's very necessary. So babe, why don't you segue into just like, what was going on that in that 5 years ago time span, and what all came about, like how did it come about for you?
So like she said, I was staff at our local church, which was amazing, just an amazing season of life, an amazing time having kids there and just the whole nine. So I started sensing change. I started desiring change. My desires had started to change, literally. And I've always considered myself to be a forward-thinking person. It used to get me in so much trouble as a kid, and always curious, always asking questions, always asking why, And growing up in school, especially in South Africa, they just didn't know what to do with people like me. So we were just always getting in trouble. And with that said, I see it now as this gift where we are people that have a wiring like myself as leaders have an ability to help people to think for themselves, because we value authenticity, we value transparency, vulnerability. So with that said, I was entering into a chapter of my life that was going to require me to ask questions about why I believe what I believe. Where does that belief come from? Does it come from me, or does it come from somebody on a stage? Am I believing this because I am wanting to be accepted and approved by this beautiful community, or am I believing this because this is a conviction that I came to based on my own research, studying, understanding, experience, right? There's a big difference. The difference is between like building your house on sand versus building your house on a rock. And when troubled times come, a house on sand will not stand. So the journey began where I felt an intrigue and an interest in just working for myself, doing business for myself. And that was specifically marketing, digital marketing, which was super random because I had no prior experience or interest in anything online, period.
But we always both knew that we have a passion for business, but we also have a passion to give back and to have it be a funding into our purpose calling, into our passion calling. So the both and. So it was the pendulum was all the way into the, more nonprofit sector at that time. And we felt the shifting. I was already in the business world, but, family being the banner at large, but the shift being from more of a nonprofit into being in the marketplace more for you full time. You were feeling that shift.
Yeah, the current context was not going to be able to facilitate what was coming up inside of me as a new father, as a husband, as a thought leader in so many ways, put it that way. Mm-hmm. So we as people that are really, our passion is freedom across the board, freedom in every area of life, right? And in order to experience freedom in every area of life, we needed to go through a transition which brought us into a more business context, entrepreneurial context versus like pastoral type ministry. That jump was literally, to this day, so far, the hardest transition I've done personally, and still processing through some of it. But it also brought out such beautiful understanding regarding just the human mind, the human soul, trauma, unregulated emotions, shame, and how and what causes self-sabotaging behavior.
Why was it the hardest transition you've ever been through?
Because my roots had gone so deep into that context, into the church context. My whole world was wrapped around that. My sense of identity was wrapped around that, even in ways that I couldn't see. It's really hard to see it when you're fully in it, right? So when I completely stepped away from it, there was my identity, my soul nourishment was no longer coming from the accolades of people because of the platform that I had, right? And I now was confronted with very uncomfortable feelings, low self-esteem feelings, low confidence feelings, disappointment feelings, discouragement feelings. I mean, I'm one of the most confident people I know, but I wasn't feeling very confident, you know. Many times in this transition, I was just so all out of sorts. My whole world got shaken upside down. It's like this. It's like you take a plant and you literally uproot this plant. That's one thing. And now you just shake it off a little bit, right? And then you put it in a new container. And so that's what was happening with both of us. Very vulnerable, out here in the open, just naked. A lot of the spiritual disciplines, whether that was prayer or giving or whatever the case may be, it just wasn't working anymore. I wasn't seeing the same like results or experiencing the same type of things I was used to, accustomed seeing. And that just caused like a lot of frustration, offense, bitterness, honestly. And it brought about this like journey of self-discovery, you know, on another level. I wanted to know how relevant Christ was in trauma. I wanted to know how relevant scripture was to raising children in the midst of feeling through unregulated and unprocessed pain, emotional pain, you know, that is. So thus began the journey of me learning to really love every part of me, even the parts that I've been running away from through my gifts and my talents. Which was very just uncomfortable. Emotions just in my body, you know. A lot of you feel a lot of tension in your chest, in your stomach area. Your body, there's a book called Your Body Keeps the Score. Do you realize that every time you are confronted with any type of disappointment, big or small, if you don't regulate that experience properly, meaning you don't communicate to somebody how this or that made you feel, you don't cry that out, you don't shake that off, and you just pretend like you're okay, that feeling, that emotion, that energy in motion, it goes somewhere. And it gets stored in your body like old boxes get stored in a garage. Eventually, that garage is so full of old boxes, you can't even maneuver or walk inside. It's just full of dust and boxes. So I think a big part of me realizes there was just a lot of buried stuff there because I was just always naturally very charismatic and talented and all good meaning. I mean, there was no ill intent. You just don't know what you don't know.
And we both were very busy, like for a very long time. We were, you know, in a season and many seasons of, you know, just being with a lot of people, going. And then all of a sudden we were fast forward into a place of having, I mean, it was 2 kids when we started this process, like when you started the process. And then it was quickly 3 kids in 5 years. So it was all of a sudden like fast forward into slowing down the pace, having children, like being with toddlers and babies and not sleeping. And for me, like hormonal changes. For him, he was going through this kind of external crisis of like, okay, who am I? What am I called to do? I know I love doing this, but I feel like there's this tension within me that it's not fully supposed to be like what I'm doing right now anymore. So it was just like a beautiful setup, and it helped us both to come to a place where a lot of pain and a lot of trauma and a lot of feels started to come up and surface, and the things that we were grabbing onto on the outside and we were holding on to give us a sense of value and identity were being stripped away. And it was very scary. Like We were in in our 30s, so it was, a place where all these outside things are happening for everybody around us, and we were in a very raw place of like, nope, it's time to pull back and go in, process a lot of pain. We were both in therapy. We were seeing professionals to help us process the feels.
It wasn't like we were like like we were in therapy, we were like losing our minds. Like, no, it was like we were losing that false self. We were losing the mask, which is uncomfortable, but we acknowledged it. And because we're both so committed again to freedom and to transformation, we sensed this is the journey for us right now, and we went on that journey. And there's something that's coming up. It's like, I feel like some of you watching this, you're like, I can't even relate, like I'm good. Like that was me for many years, right? And I was, and you don't know what you don't know.
Same.
But I'm telling you, if you are not somebody that's committed to being okay, sitting with yourself in silence, without trying to fix yourself, without trying to do something, go somewhere, or be someone that you already are, which you might not know, then your time is coming. This is how it works. This is just a heads up. It's like this glass of water, right? You can have a drop. Every drop in this glass represents uncertainty, disappointment, calamity, just uncomfortable circumstances. Well, it will take
childhood stuff.
It will take just one drop to cause this glass to overflow. Well, that's what happened in my life. That
when it was to the
it's just here's another disappointment. Well, that's okay. I can still carry on with my life. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me, and that's okay. You shouldn't be like running around looking for problems within yourself. That's not what we're saying. But you can become proactive about it, and one of the most powerful ways to do that is to learn to sit quietly with yourself as a discipline, where you go and you sit and you learn to become the observer of the thoughts that has been ruling your life. The rogue thoughts that's just running around like a rat race on loop.
Or the uncomfortable feelings, like just the uncomfortable feels. Like I feel not enough or insecure, I have to do more or be more, or whatever the feels are, sadness or anxiety, like getting in touch with those feelings instead of like numbing them down, pushing them down, or running from them, because a lot of people do that. We did that for many years. And it's not to say too, like, it's a healthy balance. So it's like, it's not running from that, but then it's also not like staying in the pool of that and like being stuck in the mud. Like, okay, every feeling is something bad. Okay, I'm gonna like go looking for stuff. Like, it's actually the opposite. Like, God will bring it up for you. Life will bring it up for you. Circumstances will bring it up for you. It's a matter of what you do with it. And as you're, what he was saying, like more proactive with the feels as they come up, and you just see it as a little thing that you can tune into. I always compare it to health. Like, if you're working on your immune system now, you won't have this big, explosion of sickness later and disease. You'll be able to tune to it in little bits. You'll, feel, okay, this is off. I've got to, tune to this now. This is off. I've got to tend to this. If you lean into those little ones, you won't have the big breakdown later. It's the same thing with your mental, emotional well-being, your internal, feeling the feels and the pain. Yep. It's the same thing. We focus so much on the outside, and that's exactly what we're telling you. Like, we put such a priority on the outside, and that was what was happening with us. Yeah. Everything on the outside was kind of coming down and falling apart, and we were able to see what was really going on in the inside. And we look back now in hindsight, and we're like, oh my gosh, if we would have built on that foundation, we would have crumbled later, like, honestly. And it just would have been so surfacey and so not, as authentic and real as we really are. And so we'll share more about it. We don't want to go super deep. We want to do
a part two.
Yeah,
right?
we're going to do a part two.
A couple more of these episodes.
Exactly. We'll get more practical. We'll talk about how, if you're, dealing with these feels and you're feeling all the overwhelm, or if you're just in a life transition and you're feeling like your world is falling apart, like what to do with all of that. Again, we're not the experts, but we look back now in hindsight. And the last part I do want to say is that we also felt a huge highlight on putting our family first versus all the other outside things first before our kids. And that, looking back in hindsight, wouldn't you say, like, has transformed our family life. Like, we literally gave the last 5 years to business, family, and like going in and doing the heart work. And now we're seeing the fruit and the expanded capacity to be able to be present with our kids, to be able to raise them well, to allow them to know that they're first, And so a lot of that was a huge part of that transition for us too, just kind of reprioritizing, like, okay, what's really most important right now in this season for us as a family. So that's part one. Tune in for part two. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear more about what you want to hear about, what sticks out to you, what you want us to elaborate on, just, you know, what bears weight for you. We want to hear from you, and we will talk to you guys soon. We also want to show you some clips of Addison's 6th birthday and Grant's 41st birthday. They share the same birthday week. We want to share some clips of that and just some other things that we've been up to in Maui. It's starting to feel like home, although we are super, super missing our people, missing our home in Florida as well. Sending love to all of you guys. Thank you for the love and support, and I will